Okay, Assalamualaikum. Today our group will present about Malaysia's inflation outlook 2025, causes, impacts and measures. This is based on the Sun article. Okay, so this is our group members. So, what is inflation? Inflation is a situation where the price of goods and services go up over time. So this means people need to spend more money to buy the same things they used to buy for less. Inflation shows that the cost of living is increased. For example, in 1997, during the financial crisis, the price of many goods and services in Malaysia went up at the same time. So this made it harder for people to afford daily needs. So what are the main types of inflation? So for the first types is demand-pull inflation. It happens when demand for goods and service is higher than what the economy can produce. So this causes price to go up. For example, budget 2025 boosts private spending, which may increase demand and lead to inflation. So, for the second type of inflation is cost-push inflation. It happens when the cost of producing goods and service goes up, such as fuel, wage, or material. This will lead to higher price for consumer. For instance, in Malaysia, diesel price surged by 20.1%, making transportation more expensive. This push price up for everyday goods. So, for the third types of inflation, we have profit push inflation. This where businesses raise price to increase their profit margins, especially in markets with little competition. So, for example, some business increase price after fuel price high. So, for the last type of inflation, we have currency inflation. It happens when the ringgit is weakened. This makes imports more expensive, leading to higher price in the local market. For example, if the ringgit drops against the US dollar, imported goods like food, electronic will become more expensive. Okay, now let's look at the pie chart which shows the estimate impact distribution of different types of inflation in Malaysia. So the biggest portion is cost push inflation at 40%. It shows in blue. This is mainly due to rising fuel, electricity and raw material price, which increase the cost of production. Next is demand pulse inflation at 21%, shows in orange. This happens when demand for goods and service exceeds the available supply, often during festive seasons or due to wage increase. So next, profit push inflation comes in at 14%. It shows in grey. This type occurs when companies raise their price to maintain or increase their profit margins, especially in sectors with less competition. Lastly, currency inflation accounts for 6%, shows in yellow. This happens when the ringgit weakens, making imported goods more expensive. So, while cost push is the biggest factors, all these type of inflation combine to affect Malaysia's overall economic environment. This pie chart is based on general economic observation and estimates to show how different types of inflation contribute to overall price increase in Malaysia. While not official, it will help us understand how cost factors, consumer demands, profit strategies and currency change can all drive inflation. So that's all for me. I'm gonna pass to the next presenter.
For question 2, CPI measures average change in price of a basket of goods and services by choosing product and services. The CPI basket includes a wide range of frequently bought goods divided into categories such as housing, transportation, food and drink. These items are regularly updated to reflect typical Malaysian household consumption patterns. Second, collected money by Department of Statistics Malaysia, which include categories like food, transport, and housing. It could happen by gathering prices every month. The Department of Statistics Malaysia collect prices from thousands of outlets nationwide. This includes supermarkets, wet markets, online platforms, restaurants, and also service providers. Prices are gathered from various states and both urban and rural areas to ensure national representativeness. Okay, this pie chart shows the major components that make up Malaysian Consumer Price Index, or what we call CPI. CPI is a key indicator used to track inflation by measuring price changes in goods and services. As you can see, food and beverages take up the largest shares at 29%, making it the most sensitive area for Malaysian households. Housing and utilities follow at 23%, while transportation, including fuel costs, account for 14%. Health services contribute 6%, and the remaining 28%, including other important areas like education, immigration, and personal care. These components help explain why inflation impacts everyday life, because even small price increase in food or housing can significantly affect the overall cost of living. Thank you for.
Hi everyone, so today I'm going to present to you inflation impact both individuals and society in several ways. Firstly, it declines the income gap. When inflation rises faster than wage growth, lower income groups suffer the most because they spend more of their incomes on essentials. Based on the data, in 2023, inflation hit 5%, but wage increased by only 2%. This widened the income gap, especially for low-income workers. Secondly, household spending patterns change. People may cut back on healthcare, education, or leisure, which reduces quality of life. Then, they spend a larger share of their incomes on essentials like food and housings, which increases their financial strain. For example, based on the data, food alone makes up to 30% of household spending. Third, rising inflation increases production costs for businesses, especially when raw materials and logistics becomes more expensive. This impacts manufacturers who may raise prices, leading to reduced demand. For example, based on the data, production costs have risen from Rm1,000 per unit in 2021 to Rm1,100 in 2023. Lastly, inflation affects Malaysia's trade balance. A weak ringgit makes import more costly while also affecting our ability to export competitively. As inflation increases, exports become less competitive because their prices rise. Malaysia has seen a steady decline in export since 2021, while imports have increased, contributing to a growing trade deficit. This effect shows that inflation is not just a price issue, but it also impacts social welfare, business sustainability, and national trade. That's all for me. Thank you.
So now, we are going to the topic government agencies to measure in controlling rising inflation. First, we have fiscal policy, where the government reduce spending and adjust tax. For instance, targeted subsidies cut in budget 2024 are aimed at easing long-term inflation. Second is monetary policy, Bank Negara Malaysia used tools like the OPR. In 2023, the OPR was raised to 3% to discourage excessive borrowing and reduce inflationary pressure. Lastly, direct controls, such as price ceilings, help regulate the price of essential items like food and petrol. These controls ensure affordability for the households during inflation spikes. Together, these policies help maintain economic stability and protect households from rising costs. Now, let's take a look at this chart that compares the effectiveness of three key measures used to control inflation in Malaysia. First, fiscal policy ranks highest in effectiveness, with a score of 8 out of 10. This includes actions like reducing subsidies and adjusting government spending. In Budget 2024, the government introduced targeted subsidies to ensure assistance reach only those in need, helping control inflation in a sustained way. Next, monetary policies, such as Bank Negara Malaysia's use of the Overnight Policies Rate or OPR score 7s. These tools help control borrowing and spending in the economy. For example, rising the OPR to 3% last year helped manage inflation expectation. Finally, direct controls like price ceilings on goods such as chicken or petrol are also used but may not be as sustainable in the long term. They rank slightly lower at 6 out of 10 because while they offer short-term relief, they can sometimes lead to shortage or inefficiencies. Overall, this chart shows that Malaysia relies on a combination of all three measures to manage inflation, each with its own strengths depending on the economic situations. In conclusion, inflation is a serious challenge that affects every part of our economy, from individual income and household spending to production costs and international trade. We have seen how different types of inflation occur, including demand pull, cost push, profit push, and currency inflations. Each has its own causes and impacts. The government plays a crucial role in managing inflation through fiscal and monetary policies, as well as direct control measures. These strategies must be balanced and responsive to current risks like global commodity price, climate impacts, and currency fluctuations. As students, workers, and future leaders, it's important for us to understand inflation, not just how it affects price, but how it shapes the bigger economic picture in Malaysia. That's all from us. Thank you for listening.